According to Matt Nagy, head coach had his leg and hip injured in the final moments. You already know Trubisky's got the shoulder injury, so if the Bears had enough problems, you can add another one to it. Let's go to the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line to welcome in Jeff Dickerson, our Bears reporter. He joins us this morning. All right, Jeff, so they said the offense would change after the play calling duties were passed over from head coach Matt Nagy to Bill Lazor, and they end up with 149 total yards, more yards on special teams than on offense. What's the reaction this morning?
Yeah, I think the offense did not change one bit. It might have actually, guys, regressed. I mean, 2 of 11 on third down for the Bears last night. They only contributed on offense 6 points. Cordero Patterson had the 104-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. So they couldn't convert on third down, couldn't convert on second down, only 10 first downs for the entire game. Did not run the ball. Patterson led the team with 30 rushing yards because David Montgomery was out with a concussion. And Nick Foles, before the injury, passed for 106 yards. I mean, I think what people are seeing in Chicago is that it doesn't matter who's calling the plays. The Bears' offense is pretty much broken beyond repair. So the reaction is what you guys would imagine. I hope one day we're all talking when the Bears are not in crisis, but that day is not today, because at 5-5 and losing 4 straight, and now they're on their bye week, there's a real chance the Bears could go from first to worst here in a couple of weeks. They were 5-1. Now they're 5-5. The division is tightening with the Lions and Minnesota both at 4-5. So obviously the vibes in Chicago not so good this morning.
Jeff, yesterday, I said that Matt Nagy, in order to keep his job, they would need to make the playoffs. What do you think? How hot is his seat right now this morning?
Keyshawn, he's 25-17, which I know doesn't sound great. But John Fox won 14 games in 3 years. I mean, that era took a couple of years off my life covering the Bears from 2015 to 2017. They've made the playoffs once. They were 8-8 last year. It's not looking good. But another issue, Keyshawn, with the Bears is, their general manager, Ryan Pace, has been in the job for 6 years, and his record's nowhere near as good as Matt Nagy's. But the Bears had to hire a search firm to hire Ryan Pace, who then hired John Fox 6 years ago. So, I mean, there's no real infrastructure in place for the Bears to easily blow out everyone after the season. So I know that it's not going well for Matt Nagy right now, but if the record is 25-17, and after living through the John Fox and Mark Trestman eras, I'm not sure if the Bears are that prepared to make a big change. Plus everything going on with COVID-19, we all know the season's been different for everybody. So, yes, I think his seat is hot, but whether or not it leads to him losing his job ultimately in the offseason, I'm not sure if the Bears are quite there just yet.
Well, the reason I bring that up, because I'm thinking, okay, so, yes, he went to the playoffs in his first year. What did they win, 11 games? 10,
12
11
games, right.
12 games. So that's basically half of the 25 that we're talking about, right? I mean, and then when you look at it, he was the person who went out and vouched for Nick Foles and then made the decision to get away from Trubisky at 3-0 to go back to Nick Foles, which, some would argue at 3-0, why would you even make the change, even though Trubisky's not available now? But what if he was available and he was still starting? Where would you be at?
Well, your point's valid. And don't forget this too, Keyshawn. Matt Nagy is only the Bears head coach because of his offensive association with Andy Reid. He was brought here to call plays. I mean, he wasn't brought here to hand over play calling duties to someone like Bill Lazor, who called plays for the Bears last night. So if he's not calling plays, what is he exactly? That's a great question. The Trubisky thing, it was very clear that Nagy was just done with Trubisky, and they benched him in week 3 against Atlanta. They came back. Foles led them to a victory. But now they're in a really tough spot. They do have the bye week, and maybe Foles can recover from this leg or hip injury he suffered last night. Trubisky's shoulder's been messed up. He's been inactive the last couple of weeks. They had Tyler Bray come in and try to finish the game off last night. That's not ideal for anybody. Oh, there's a lot of things you can look at and say, boy, Matt Nagy has not made the right decision here. He could be in real jeopardy. I just feel like for the Bears themselves, with a GM and a head coach that are so closely tied together like Pace and Matt Nagy, and with no one in place in the organization to step in and say, okay, these guys are fired, I'm going to hire this guy who's going to hire that guy, it's always a little more complicated when it comes to Chicago and these types of matters.
Jeff, Nick Foles gets knocked out at the end of that game, has to be carted off, as you mentioned. When can we expect an update on his status? And where are we at with Mitch Trubisky? Is that a consideration if he's healthy coming out of the bye week, if Foles isn't ready to go?
Yeah, Chris, it's definitely a consideration. Matt Nagy was asked about that after the game last night. He thinks Trubisky probably could be ready for the Packers game on November 29th. He didn't want to make any bold proclamations of that early. We're still waiting to see what was going on exactly with Nick Foles. But I think Trubisky, of course, is back in play here. If Foles can't go, Matt Nagy will speak again to the media coming up in a couple of hours. So maybe there's a little more of an update on Nick Foles. He was in a lot of pain last night. We talked to some guys that are with him in the post-game locker room, and he was limping around. So, the bye does come at a good time for him health-wise. But they got the Packers coming up in 2 weeks on a 4-game losing streak. So, yes, I think, barring a really quick recovery from Nick Foles, there is definitely a chance that Mitchell Trubisky's back in there when the Bears come off their bye.
One thing I got to mention, the thing I learned during this interview more than anything is that the Bears actually paid somebody to find Ryan Pace for them. That has to be the worst possible scenario in Chicago. I'm just looking at the dude's resume, man. I'm just looking at his resume.
Search firms never work out. They never work out.
Here's $50,000. Give us 5 names. Right?
No, it's actually more than that. It never works out, though.
And it certainly isn't working out in Chicago. Jeff, thanks for the insight this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
I'll start my own search firm.
Is that right?
Yeah, Canty and Key. We're going to go find you a coach, an athletic director, in every sport, right?
Can you believe he didn't say Key and Canty?
No, I like that. He put me first. How about that? He must actually like having me on the show.
Y'all need to stop, man, because y'all setting this narrative amongst American people that I am something different than what I am.
No, you are genuine.
Shut up, Evan.
And authentic. That's for sure. Let's talk a little NBA, but first, before we do that on the Alphabet Soup, let's go from A to Z.
From Houston to Boston and everywhere in between. From A to Z.
And From A to Z is brought to you by Redbox. Redbox has new movies at the box and streaming on demand from the producers of Get Out and Us. Don't miss Antebellum, starring Janelle Monáe. Visit redbox.com for all the ways to watch. If you're just waking up this morning, you might have missed this story. James Harden turning down an opportunity to be the NBA's first $50 million